All right, gang, welcome back. So today I'm pleased to announce that we have finally a Wells Gardner K4600 on the bench. I have not had the chance to have one of these come across the bench really ever in the history of the channel here. So it's nice to finally have one come across the bench, and we're going to go ahead and do a full dive into what this thing is, what makes it tick, and getting it all repaired. And I say repaired because, as you can see, look, I've got intermittent shorted blue. I gotta turn this off and on. There we go. So see, now it's fine. But you saw there for a moment when I just showed it, the blue was completely shorted in the gun. It's caused by the color gun inside the neck is internally shorting, and that's what caused that entire blue screen. So every so often I'll turn this off and back on, and it'll be a completely blue screen. After I let it run for a minute or so, it'll pop and zap and come back to a normal image like this. You can see we have fold over and all kinds of issues here. This is caused by caps. I have color problems. Some of the guns are weak. It takes like 30 seconds for this to even show an image, so the tube needs to be rejuvenated. It's got some scratches on the glass here, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. There's no way to fix it, so I'm not going to worry about it. But I mean, it's a decent picture, but it's hard. I can't get the colors adjusted, so it needs rejuvenated. It takes forever for it to come on and even show an image at all. It's got a fold over here, which is caps. And it has an internal shorted blue gun that's intermittently shorting, I should say. But once it warms up, it zaps itself back into normal operation. I got this locally from a friend who got a couple of machines that he's not going to do anything with. They're too far gone. They're not worth saving. And he said, hey, I got a couple of monitors from these cabinets. Do you want them? I said, sure. And one of them happened to be a K4600. And this is all original. The caps are all original. It's completely untouched for 40 years. It's been sitting in his garage for quite a while. You can see all the nastiness and like grass mower clippings and stuff that's blown onto here over the years, and the dust and debris and dirt down in there, and like a bird made its nest in here, and it's in dire straits. However, it is working and it is operational, and it does function. And these are a little bit of an oddball when it comes to the flyback. I've never seen a 4600 flyback go bad ever. They're like a workhorse and a juggernaut, and the screen control is actually on the neck board here. So normally you guys are used to the flyback having the bottom pot be the screen, top pot be the focus. Well, on this monitor, the focus is here and the screen adjustment's actually on the neck board. And we'll get into all that when I tear this apart and give it a deep dive, and we'll get it repaired and cleaned up and all that. But there's a couple of interface boards. There's an interface board in there you see with our video connection hooked up to it. Then there's a horizontal vertical deflection board right there. It's this guy right here. When I first turned this on and got it running, I was not able to get the image to sync no matter what I did. There is a horizontal hold. This pot here is the horizontal hold. This pot here is vertical hold. And no matter what adjustments I made, I could not get the image to sync. And this little adjustment here is a secondary horizontal, or vertical, I'm sorry. This is a secondary, no, I think it's horizontal. It might be vertical, I forget. I'll have to do the research and we'll clarify later. But this little adjustment here is a secondary hold feature. So I'm pretty sure it's vertical hold. If you're not able to get the vertical hold to lock on, you gotta completely this way, no matter what you do. And the sync is hooked up correctly. As you can see, it's pin 10 only, just like every other Wells Gardner monitor. When you're working with a JAMA setup, I should say. With JAMA, all you need is the sync hooked up to pin number 10. I think the G07 is the only one I can think of where it has to be jumpered from pins 9 and 10 together if you're using JAMA. But for most of the Wells Gardner stuff, it's just pin 10 only. So sync's hooked up correctly. I could not get this to sync no matter what I did. And it turns out it's this card. Now, I don't know if it's caused by the caps or really what's going on, but there's a secondary adjustment. If you cannot get the sync to lock on, you can adjust this pot here as well. And it's actually designed for that. There is a hole right here. Right there is a hole that you put a little screwdriver through, and it lines right up with this adjustment right here. It's hard to see, but if you were to look straight through that hole, you can kind of see in there. It lines right up with this thing right there. So it's a secondary hold adjustment, but no matter what I did, any of that, it wouldn't sync. It turns out that there's something wrong with this card. I actually have a bunch of these. Another local friend here, sorry about the mess on the floor, had a spare one of these he gave to me for free because he tried to cap it, and it was on a 13-inch monitor, if you believe that, and he was having issues with all kinds of problems with it, so he just yanked it out and put an LCD in, and he said, here, I don't want this, I don't need it, and gave it to me. And as you can see, I have a whole bunch of extra of these cards. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 video interface boards, and 1, 2 deflection boards, and then this is the original one I didn't have, or I couldn't get to sync. So I got it up and running, but as you see here, it's all disheveled and dirty and dusty and messy, and every so often the blue gun will short out. So what we're going to do first is we're going to take all this apart and go over all of the nooks and crannies and all the info and bits and pieces of information and get it all cleaned up. We'll do the cap kit, see how that turns out. You know, like the typical stuff, like the resistors are smashed over on the neck board, all the stuff like that. So we'll get this all nice and spick and span and cleaned and refurbished and reflowed and cap kit and all the normal stuff. And then we'll worry about getting the monitor fixed up and rejuvenated to see how well that goes, and hopefully we can get a good working monitor out of this. And yeah, I got this for the grand total of free. So we'll see if we can make the most out of it, see how it turns out. So stand by one moment and we'll get cracking into it here. So here we have it off of the monitor and showcased here, and let's go over it and discuss in detail the inner workings and the parts and features and everything of the Wells Gardner K4600. Now I want to start off here by saying that I was able to successfully desolder the wires off of the horizontal width coil, and they are right here, but someone's already done some hackery on this. I didn't notice this until I went to desolder them. You may have seen it in the video and were crying out at me, but it looks like they connect, where's my brush? It's outside. But they connect to these two posts here. I'll get this cleaned up here in a moment. But somebody has done some type of hackery here where they've soldered this bare wire on there. That's not good. I mean, if that touched that would not be a good day. Then they just extended the wire. So I don't know if they got too short or really what they did, but they got too short. Get it? Haha. But this needs to be resolved, so I'll have to resolve that. But this is just the easiest way to preserve that horizontal coil from getting damaged and not going back in the holder. So anyway, all right, enough about that. Oh hell, it's all loose on there. Wow. Holy cow, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Here's the original wire that was soldered to that. Here's the other wire right here. This is loose. Look at this. Huh. This is the wire that was hooked to one end of the horizontal width coil. This was the other one. This one's soldered to the pin, but this one just pulled right out. They didn't even solder it on. They just shoved it in there. Wow. Well, glad we found that. This is the original wire here that's still soldered, and I'll have to fix all this. Wow. I'm glad I noticed that. Alright, so that being said, yeah, the other thing here is that there's no yoke disconnect. Like on most of these chassis, there's a connector on the chassis where you plug on the yoke connector. Well, the 4600 is basically a repurposed television meant for retrofitting into arcade monitors, or as an arcade monitor or arcade games. And this actually is a direct connection right to the yoke. There's no disconnect. The wires are hard soldered right to the board. This is a different connector here for the wires that run to the flyback. But the wires for the yoke are just hard soldered right to the board, and these are supposed to have some spade connectors on here that clip onto the leads at the yoke. And I'll show you that later when it's time to hook this back up. But somebody thought it was a good idea to cut those off of there and just solder them directly to the connections on the yoke. And they're supposed to have little spade connectors that you just slip on like a normal spade terminal. So that was something else that someone's done. So there's been some hackery and butchery on this, but nothing that we can't fix. It's had some high life, but not a whole lot, because we've got a whole lot of dirt and dust and grime and everything here on the flyback. The flyback actually mounts to the side of the frame. You see there's a mounting hole here and a mounting hole here. You take this screw out, just loosen this one, it'll slide up off of the frame. And like I said, this is your focus pot. And then here on the neck board is your screen pot. So that's how you adjust that. Okay, well, the basics of this, you have this holder protector bar, you squeeze this in like this and you can lift this up, and that will allow you access to your interface cards. We have the video interface card. This is a connector here that runs to our neck board. You never want to run it without that, but there's 3 different kinds of video interface board, and let me get the other ones here in a moment. But for the deflection interface board, there's only one type of deflection interface board that I'm aware of, and you can always tell if these are high hour or low hour because of the burning of the connector here. And you can see how this has started to turn brown from heat, and you can tell how long these have been in operation and how old it is and how much life it's had being on by the color of this connector. And if we zoom in here, you can clearly see that it's not very, but it's browned and yellowed compared to the other one. And if we look at the actual chassis here, you can actually see some of the same type of thing. Now this one's more yellow and brown than this one is. And I got stickers and everything from the tube. Look at that, 1982, 40 years ago. Here's another sticker over here from the tube. Caution, blah blah blah. Read it later. To quote the instruction manual from the Home Improvement Super Nintendo game, real men don't need instructions. So yeah, the interface card here. This is the interface card for your vertical and horizontal deflection. And like I mentioned before, this is an ancillary adjustment for your vertical hold, I'm pretty sure. Your horizontal hold, of course, is here, vertical hold, and your vertical size. Ancillary sync adjustment or hold adjustment. And then everything else on here is, pretty self-explanatory. Capacitors, resistors, diodes. This is responsible for your vertical and horizontal deflection. Now, one of the most common issues with these, because they get hot and burn up, is not only do you want to reflow the headers on the connections on the chassis here, which we'll get to later, but you also want to inspect the connections for the pins here. A very, very, very high failure location failure component or part of this 4600 are these pins here for the connections for the horizontal and vertical deflector board, and then also the pins here for your interface card connections for the video and then the deflection. So you absolutely want to reflow all of those header pins on there and the connections here for your boards. Now, I mentioned before that there's 3 different, that I've ever seen, there's 3 different video interface boards, and I actually might have all 3. Actually, I have, this is the original deflection board that had the no sync. As soon as I tried everything humanly possible with this sync adjustment and these sync adjustments, I could not get it to sync. I simply removed it and plugged this one in and it synced right up. So there's definitely an issue with this original one, but we're going to cap it and then put this back in to see if maybe it was just bad caps, because all these caps are original 40-year-old caps. So that's going to be step 1. But I actually have, this is the original video interface board, and I say there's differences, so you can see here that we have an adjustment on this interface board for your black level, which is brightness, and your horizontal center, which will, center your image left and right. But they don't all have that. There's different revisions. You can see here from this one, these are both the same thing, but see how they're oriented differently? You've got your video connection here on the side, but over here you have the header pins for your connection for the neck board going vertical. These are going out horizontal. So that's one difference. But also the brightness, the black level pot on this version is actually over here on this version. And there is no centering pot. There's a black level pot. It's moved from here to here. But on this revision of the interface board, there is no horizontal center. You can't, so if your image is shifted one way or the other, you either have to use the jumper setting. There is a jumper setting here on the board. That's right here. Or you can actually use your horizontal sync. You can use the horizontal sync adjustment or horizontal hold, and turning that should shift the image left and right. But if you don't have the horizontal centering pot, that's about your only option, is the jumper or your horizontal hold pot. It's the only real option you have for moving your horizontal image. And then we look at, let's see, this is the same thing, but for this version of the board, the adjustment's on the back side. Probably because somebody had to change out the pot and it was the wrong kind. So they, in order to get it to work lefty down, righty uppy, they put it on the back side. But let's see, yeah, I don't know if, see, they have different stamps on them. See how this says 324 and 27. This one doesn't have that. It's like a 05 something over here. So it's a different revision. This one's already been capped, it looks like. Then we have another one here, which has it on the back side as well. So we got two of them here that are alike with the brightness control on the back side. This one has it on the front side, and it doesn't appear to have ever been worked on. Then we have these two here that have the horizontal centering and brightness pot. So I think I lied. I actually have two different versions. I think there may be more out there. I have to do some research. But we got three of one kind and three of a different kind. But the original one is this one here, and it works. So we're going to just recap and use this one. But I wanted to show the differences here in these video interface boards because I don't think it's well documented, but it is documented. So just for, you know, educational purposes here. So I'm gonna put these away here. And let's talk more about the chassis here. Now, when you're working on this, you can easily just squeeze these in like this, and it, oh, well, might help if I get rid of the, there we go. Squeeze this in and this comes right out. And like I say, this has slots in here to keep your cards in place. So for vibration and moving a machine around, this will keep the cards from becoming unseated and everything. So it's important that you keep this. If you don't have one, you have to fashion something kind of out of your own ability to make one. Okay, well, we've got quite a mess here. If we were to turn this over and just tap it. Oh Lord, what's going on here? Are these factory mods? I don't think, they don't look familiar. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know if this spent time in a barn or really what's going on here. Let's get rid of this. Can I even do that? Yep, there we go. I don't know what this is. Let me go grab my brush because I want to brush all this stuff out of here. But before we do that, your voltage regulators on this side, you can always tell whether the voltage regulators on the left side or the right side, which one's HOT. HOT is over here on this side. Voltage regulators over here. You can always easily tell which one is voltage regulator and which one's HOT, because the voltage regulator is always going to be tied to your B+ resistor, almost in every case. And if we see this transistor here, we got the wires, they run straight over here to our B+ resistor. So this is your voltage regulator, then over here is going to be your horizontal output transistor. I'm not sure what the purpose of this resistor is, but this is our B+ resistor here because it's tied directly to the flux capacitor. Yeah, other than being dirty, it's not too bad. We saw that was functional, but it is easier to, like, there's an interface board here for the power circuit, and it also has a disconnect down here. You can see it right here. This disconnect is just like these right here, which means that this whole side of the chassis actually is removable. And you can see that once there's a little nut here and a screw, you take that out, you pop this little retainer up like that, and you pop the other one up like this, you know, and then you can actually remove this whole assembly right off the board, and allows you to change these caps out much easier. Now you don't have to do that. I may not do that at all, but sometimes this stuff gets in the way, and it's hard to get those recapped. But yeah, you take this piece out right there and pop those two plastic pieces, and this thing should just disconnect like the rest of these things. Man, this is getting pretty dirty. Get you fired up in a hurry. Want to get dirty. All right. I'm trying to think. I don't recall. I'm trying to think, but nothing happens. It's got these plastic pieces here that you can take off or not take off. It's up to you. Of course, it's going to make your job easier to to cap it if you do that, but we have to take this thing off here anyway to do that. Put that, actually we'll put that over there. And what size is that? That's too small. Is it this one? There we go. We'll see if this works. Oh, that is this bastard metric? I gotta figure out how to take that out of there. I've got something that's a bit overkill. Now it works. Okay, the head was messed up before and I wasn't able to get a grip on it with the socket. Okay, now that that's out, we'll put our screw aside, take this bracket off of there. Now we can slide our protector out, and this is what, so there's a hole right here and a hole right there on both of these parts, and those are what those bolts went in from the bottom of the frame to keep this secured, as I mentioned before. Now, with that out, I should be able to pull that and pull this, and then this should just lift off of here. Oh, come on. Oh, gosh darn it. It's never been removed. Somebody has this block on it. Now it should come off. There you go. And it's just modular like this. Now the whole thing comes off. Makes it much easier to work on these caps here. So there you go. It comes off just like that. So now we have this completely torn apart as much as it can come apart, and we got a big mess. So I'm going to go get my brush and kind of clean all this up, and then we'll start with the cap kit. There's really not much else to describe. Like I said, HOT, voltage regulator, the jumper here for horizontal. You can see that the wire actually runs straight over here to the connection. This is the connector here for the coil. Now they mount the coil remotely. See, L's for the coil. They mount the coil remotely over here like I've shown, and these are the jumper connections to the coil from the board. I guess they moved it because there's no way to adjust it with this in the way. I don't know the logic or the reason behind it, but they moved the coil from the board over to the side. But you can see this red wire comes over here, and this is how you would jumper, you know, center left and right for your horizontal position if you didn't have this interface board with the horizontal centering pot. So a little bit of side note there. All right, let me go get my brush. We'll clean all this up. We'll come back, and I guess what we'll do is we will, since we know it works, we can go ahead and start just doing our cap kit. Again, the traditional fuses right here, filter cap, regular caps. I don't know what this jumper does. I can't recall offhand, but I don't think it does anything important where, like, if you had a problem, you need to move this. This could be, in all likelihood, this is our horizontal position jumper, and this is our vertical position jumper. I can't say that with 100% certainty, but I'm about 99% certain this is your vertical jumper and your horizontal jumper, but don't quote me. You have to do your own experimentation on that. Yeah, I mean, it's very simple. Like I say, it was actual a television that they modified to work for an arcade machine. If this was, let's say that we turn this on and it did nothing, totally dead, the very first thing you would do would be to inspect it and verify your fuse is actually good. If the fuse is good, check your B+ resistor. If B+ resistor reads properly in circuit, the voltage regulator should be good. If you read short across your two leads for your B+ resistor, the your voltage regulator is probably shorted. If this is 0 ohms across the resistor, your voltage regulator is most likely shorted. If it's good, if it reads 180 ohms, then your regulator should be okay. If the fuse is blown, you've either got a bad regulator or your HOT is likely the issue. If those are all good, then you know, check this resistor and all your ceramic resistor and your other power resistors and stuff, diodes and things. So your various normal troubleshooting that you would do for a dead chassis or a chassis blowing fuses, there's no real difference between this one and the other ones. You just check for shorted diodes, open resistors, things like that, everything within spec. And if all that passes, you do your cap kit, you do your reflow. You want to make sure the header pins on your connectors here for your interface boards are good, and it looks like they're actually not bad. These here, I'm not seeing anything that's cracked. Oh, I do see one that's cracked. Looky here. Number 6 here. How close can I get? Get a little closer with air at extra dry. All right. So right here on number 6, it's hard to see. This one is cracked. There you go. See that? That is crack OLED. Now it was functioning, but this is something that has to be reflowed ASAP. The rest of these pins all seem okay, but this one here, it's hard to tell with my glare from the light overhead. I'm trying to see if I can get a better angle, but yeah, you can tell there. See how it's cracked around there? So it's probably, if we hadn't gotten to this, it might not have lasted much longer. But that's a problem. So there's a good example there. You got to inspect these because they're all going to be like that. Most of them anyway. The other ones are pretty bare, pretty close. If we give this another just a quick general look over for anything. Ooh. Hachi-machi. For our power headers, we've got more of the same. This one here is in dire straits. Let's get closer. Again, I got to get the right angle here. This one here is in dire straits. There you go. That one's cracked. Let's look at the rest of these. Looking pretty thin. But this one here is the worst. And yeah, it needs some TLC. So yeah, you'll have to go through and hit all that stuff because it's very important. The rest of this, we got some spots here from heat that are oxidized. Otherwise, not too much. This one's cracked here, this header. That's about the only one. This one here is on its way out, but not too bad. So we were lucky actually that this was working okay. We saw that it had the lines on the side. It was collapsing a bit, fold over. Most likely always all due to caps on this. So there's no way to really remove the flyback. Like I say, it's hardwired in along with everything else. Everything is connected to it. And you know, in all these years, I have never once ever seen a flyback go bad on a 4600. Not once ever. Not to say that doesn't happen, but it's extremely, extremely, extremely uncommon. And I don't even think you can buy one unless you get one from a dead chassis. I don't think you can even acquire anything that would even work because it's all remote. There's nothing to hook to the actual PCB. I don't think you can actually disconnect it because they got a connector here for it, but there's other wires that solder to the board. I don't think you're able to actually, yeah, it's too much trouble to remove it. So we'll just work with it, you know, like this and just leave it set here. But let me get my brush and get all this crap off of here, sweep all this up, clean this up, and then we'll prep it for our cap kit and reflow and put it back together and see what we get. If it all works, then we'll have to rejuve the picture tube and work on it and hopefully get this back to 100% functionality for many years to come. So let me get my brush, we'll get this cleaned up and I'll come right back. Alrighty, well, I'm back. I got everything cleaned up and wiped down and brushed off and ready to go. We'll put our interface cards off to the side for a moment, along with our voltage regulator card. And I also cleaned up the flyback a bit, just poured some alcohol on a rag and wiped it up, just quick I mean, it's not a award-winning cleanup, but it's all the dust and dirt's off of it, so well, as much as it needs to be. And I brushed off as much as I could, and now that I see a different angle here, there's a piece here I missed, got it. But now we have a clean palette here to work with. Unfortunately, I don't have a filter cap. They don't usually go bad on the 4600, but I got a full cap kit otherwise. I don't have one for the filter cap. But yeah, Sam, I think we're ready to go. So let's start the time lapse of this cap kit. And we'll do the whole thing on camera here and follow along. And I'll do the reflow in the cap kit and kind of put this back together and get it in a state where it's ready to test. I'll have to fix the wiring here for our connection for our width coil. And I'll put everything back together, and when I'll cut away. When I come back, we'll have it on the tube and ready to test. So cue the time lapse. Well, and just like that, everything is done and ready to go. We are all back together. Everything is complete, full reflow, full cap kit, full inspection, and we are ready to reinstall the chassis on the picture tube. I have all of this monstrosity here with the wiring for the horizontal width coil has been removed, and I've got 2 brand new wires soldered to our posts right there, ready to go onto our coil. So that is complete, and yeah, give everything a good check and inspection, and it's ready to go. Here are all the old caps. There weren't any that were visibly leaking, but there were a couple that were kind of iffy, but none of them had visible electrolyte or anything, so I'm pretty sure they probably are dried out as opposed to leaking. But all that's been done. As you saw, like I say, I got all the stuff reflowed, everything that needed it, all good to go. So now, nothing left to do but get it back on the picture tube. And again, this is the original interface card that would not sync up. When we saw it working at the beginning of the video, I had the other one in there. So now that I've got this capped and reflowed, we're going to see if it can sync up with this original one. If there's nothing that I can do to get this working, I'm going to swap it with another one that I had earlier that was working and just put the new caps on that one, and we'll use that one and troubleshoot this one at a later time. Because this video is kind of already long enough with the time lapse and everything. So let's go ahead and get it on the tube and see what it does, and if we can get it working and looking decent, we'll go ahead and zap or rejuvenate the picture tube, see if we can get it looking a bit better, and then hopefully we can get this back to 100%. So stand by, we'll get it back on the tube, I'll get this reconnected for our width coil, and we'll see how it turns out. Okay, we're all hooked back up. We got our horizontal width coil hooked up much more properly now, and it's still intact, and that should be factory fresh now. I got the yoke reconnected. As I said, there's supposed to be spade connections on these posts, and they were hard soldered right to them, so I hooked all these up the way they're supposed to be. They're nice and solid, they're not going to move, and they're secure, and they're anchored off here, and there's tension, so they shouldn't move or touch each other. They should, ideally I'd have shrink wrap over those, but I'm currently out. I may put some on at a later time, but for now, for testing, this should be okay, and it's all hooked up the way that it should be. And everything is re-secure. I was able to get a screw in that spot where it's supposed to be. Interface card is installed, our hold down bracket. Everything is now reinstalled, ready to go. We got our anode neck board. Yoke is hooked up, anode neck yoke. Our grounds are hooked up. Now we just need power and video because there's no remote board. Everything is adjusted on the chassis. So let's get this swung around, get everything hooked up, and we'll fire it up for the first time after replacing everything, and we're hoping that it will sync, and we're hoping that it works. So let's find out. I'm going to cut away, come back, and we'll see what we get. Okay, we have our power and video now hooked up. Let's go ahead and turn this on, and we'll get this on the tripod. And like I said before, this takes a while for it to even produce an image. So we're going to have to rejuvenate it regardless, but let's see if it turns on, if it syncs. Hopefully our screen isn't shorted blue. Let's find out here. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we've got power. Nothing has exploded yet. I hear it operating. Oh, darn it. We've got sync problems still. So let me try adjusting our horizontal hold. So there's horizontal hold, and it's locked on, so it's not a horizontal hold problem. Let's adjust vertical hold, and right there vertical hold's locked on, and that's what we get. And I know it's not a connection problem or a test pattern generator problem because we know that it worked before with that other deflection board, so we definitely have some kind of problem here, and that's unfortunate. That's on the opposite side here. That's brightness, horizontal center. It's interesting. If I adjust the horizontal center, it kind of changes the sync signal. Horizontal sync is fine. There's vertical sync. Yep, see, now I'm back to this. Well, I'll see if I can adjust. I'm going to try and adjust that pot in here. This one that I mentioned before, I want to see if I can adjust that and see if that makes a difference. All right. It's going to be tricky. There we go. Okay. Nope. Well, got something wrong with this board, so I'm going to take this board out and swap the caps over from that board to this one here that I know works, and then we're going to reflow all this as well, and we'll put this one in there so we can at least get this up and running, and I'll have to troubleshoot what's wrong with this board that's on there at a later time, so give me a moment here. Alright, so I now have the board that was not working removed. I took all the brand new caps off of it and swapped them over to the one that was working when we first saw the beginning of the video. So now we have a known working good deflection board installed with new caps as well. And then I had this one marked, I think as you saw prior, no sync with a question mark. Now I know for a fact it's got no sync. So troubleshooting this thing will be a different video. It's kind of beyond the scope of this video. So stay tuned, we'll see if we can troubleshoot this later in a different, maybe a follow-up to this one, I'm not sure. Now that we have a known working one, well, I assume I haven't tried it again since changing the caps from this one to the known good one. We'll use that one as a test bed to see if we can figure out what's wrong with this one, or even the other one of these that I have. I have a third one as well, which we showed before as well. So we'll see about this in a separate video, but for now, we have a known good one installed, so let's see if it is in fact working. Oh, I left my generator on. Oh well. It didn't take more than 5 minutes or so to swap those caps over. So, let's see what happens now. 1, 2, 3. We didn't hear any energization because the tube is still charged from the last time we tried it. Hey, and there you go. So, we definitely have a bad board, and so we'll figure out the issue on a separate video. But it looks like we are good to go here. Our yoke is crooked. That's fantastic. And we're shifted too far this way because we're folding over on the edge there. The refresh rate doesn't lock up on this. And let me get that overhead light out of there. There we go. Let's see if I can adjust the image is shifted this way. You can see that it's twisted and it's too far that way. So let's see if we can... let's see, we need to adjust horizontal position, which is going to be on our video board, which should be this one. And we need to make it roughly even, which is right there in the raster. So right there, we're even in the raster. You can kind of see, if I turn up the screen pot here, you can see the raster ends right here, and it ends right here. Oh, we got a flicker of blue there. Let me turn the light out. You can see the raster ends here and up there. So now we're centered inside the raster for our screen position, but the raster is too far that way still. I'm going to turn this down until we lose that background. There we go. So there, our brightness should be sitting roughly there. So now we need to twist our yoke. There we go. Fairly simple process there. Now we are straight, but we still need to shift our image to the right. So let's see if I can... I don't have easy access to that jumper. I wonder if I can adjust the horizontal sync to get it to shift. Nope. How about... Okay, so that was my fault. That was vertical. We should be able to adjust horizontal hold and shift the image down. And there you go. Perfection. Now we are even. Zoom out a bit. There we go. Now we have the same amount of black on the top and the bottom. You can see that we have roughly, I don't know, a little more than 1.5 inches probably there, and come down here and it's going to be about the same for all intents and purposes. Yep, I think we're good there. So now we need to see if we can adjust our horizontal width. Again, this is a vertically mounted tube, so you have to realize that this is horizontal and this is vertical because of the way, instead of being left and right on the test bench, it's actually sitting upright. So this is horizontal and this is vertical. So we need to increase our horizontal width, which looks like vertical. Just to keep you apprised here of how it should be. And if I touch the case of that HOT, I am going to get shocked within 1 inch of my life. So I'm going to turn this off, and then I'm going to insert my adjustment tool. Okay, we got it. Now let's turn this back on. Oh, that stupid hold. God dang it. It's going to have to stay right there, I suppose. Which is fine. Oh, hey, got a flash of red there. Yeah, looks like we have issues with the red gun and the blue gun. So far the blue is staying off, but you might have seen there a little flash of red. I think this will definitely benefit from rejuvenation. But now I have my adjustment tool installed, and there's an access hole on the bottom. I'm not going to be able to turn it. The problem is the HOT case is exposed, and if I touch it while it's running, it will probably kill me. And I don't want to. I've been shocked once like that on a G07, and I never want to go through that again. I'm not sure how I'm going to. Let me turn this off. I'm going to adjust it out a bit, and then we'll see how much of a difference that makes. Not much. A little bit maybe. Let's try a little bit more here. Ah, getting better. That may be just about as much as I need right there. Well, hot tamale. Okay. Let's see what it looks like with an actual PCB. It's not going to do any good to try and adjust brightness, colors, contrast, and stuff, because it's going to look totally different after I rejuvenate the tube. So just out of curiosity, let's hook up an actual PCB. So we'll kill the test pattern generator and hook up the JAMA video cable. There we go. And instead of using my trusty High Impact, I actually have a vertical game here. And I fixed this for a friend, but I didn't post a video about it because this is not the channel that covers that. So let's see what this does. Oh, you know what? I almost plugged that in backwards. That would not have been good. Yep, I very nearly powered this up backwards. Let's see what this does. Outstanding. Look at that. And I can already tell you it's too blue because there's a background that's blue instead of black. So if we turn our blue down, there we go. Man, that's terrible. Turn the volume down. So that's why it's always good to test with an actual PCB, because this looks like garbage. We have almost no green. There's our green bias. And actually that's green, this is green cutoff. This is green cutoff. And, oh, it's flashing. Right there is the limit of our green, and there's our red. Blue's too high. We have almost no green. We have green. I can turn up the green. There it is. But we may have a bad transistor on the neck board, I can't say. So we're missing green. Actually, you know what? I think I had green. I think I had green with a test pattern generator. So, yeah, these colors are all wrong. And we need to adjust our H hold again because we got a bit of a droop on the side there, as you can see. So if we turn our horizontal hold again, there. Now our droop is gone. So there we go. So now it's working, but yeah, that's no good. Focus work? Yep, focus is nice and crisp. When the 4600 is operational in all capacity, it's a fantastically beautiful monitor. Well, I think probably one of the best monitors Wells Gardner ever made. But we need to figure out what's up with the green. I'm going to hook up the test pattern generator again real quick because I'm pretty sure I had green earlier. Okay, let's see what this does. Okay, we're back to that. Nope, I'm missing green. Huh. Oh, there's, oh. That's red. That's blue. I got no green. So the question now, is it a neckboard issue or a picture tube issue? Because if I turn up the green here, there, see, I got green. So it's not I think it's a picture tube problem, because if I had a bad neck transistor, I wouldn't have the green there. So yeah, let me, we got a nice, beautiful square image, RGB, but green is weak as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. So let's get the Rejuvenator hooked up and zap this sucker and see if we can make this look better. Okay, we have our cable hooked up to our neck board, and we have power hooked up to the Rejuvenator. So, man, that damn tube and chassis are dirty. All right. So we want to set our heater voltage to 6.3, which is exactly on the dial. Again, before I start here, these settings and the way I do this, again, disclaimer, is the way I've been doing it for many years, and I have never damaged a tube with the settings and the procedure that I do here. You may be screaming at your TV or your monitor or at your computer, whatever it is you're watching this on, your phone, and saying, don't do that, you'll destroy it, do it this way. Well, I can understand that, but the way that I do it here, I've never destroyed or damaged a tube. So take that with a grain of salt, proceed at caution, but a disclaimer that this is how I do it, and it usually works for me. So the only time I've ever failed is if the tube was just too far gone. So we set our heater voltage to 6.3 with this dial here, as you can see. I'm not worried about G1 leakage or anything. Okay, color tracking, everything is off. Alright, so let's go back to power off, and we'll just go straight to set G1 voltage. And I go usually to about 30 for G1 voltage. And then if we go to, we're on red, selected to red. If we go to set cutoff voltage for red, I do about 30 or so. Come on, it's thinking. It's thinking. This tube is very tired. Come on. There we go. Okay, 30. Don't just go cranking on it. You want to do it very slowly, because you'll see the tube kind of give you a red flash, and You'll hear this thing clicking and you'll hear voltage in the neck going haywire sometimes, but you want to very slowly, if it offers resistance, you want to move it slowly and give it time to warm up and heat up before it creeps up. So we'll go back to green now. Same thing, we'll slowly turn it and see our green gun is, I think our green gun is dead. See, I'm turning this and oh, hey, maybe not. There we go, finally. It acted very differently from the red gun. Now if we go to blue, oh, come on blue. There we go. Now when I say 30, you can reference 0.6 here, or you can reference 30 on the G1 or 4.7 on the red line there, or you can reference the heater. So roughly about 5 on the heater range, or 30 on the G1. But so there's blue, green. Blue is freaking out on me. Get back down there. There we go. Blue, green, red. So now all that's set properly. Well, properly as far as how I do it. Then we'll go to read emission. Blue is actually pretty good. Green, I'm surprised. I'm surprised it's that well. Usually I would expect this to go way down here with how bad it was. Red, red's not good. Green, blue, they're not actually bad. Usually when they're completely gone and no bringing them back to life, they go right to bad immediately. So not worried about setting color tracking because it changes as you shoot this thing. So we'll just go right to Rejuvenate. We'll flip it over to red. And ideally you want this to go up to good and kind of hang out there. Sometimes it'll go up to good and flicker around and come back down. If that's the case, I'll shoot it 2 or 3 times. But press and hold the button. And it is staying there. Hold it for a little, up, crank itself up. Come on, come on. Okay, let's try it one more time. That was pretty good. That's what you're hoping to see. If it goes up and then flips around and goes right back down, that's not necessarily good. You're wanting it to stay up in the good. But if it stays in the good and goes back down, just zap it a couple more times. But for this instance, it stayed up in the good, so that's good. So let's hit this again. I got a bit higher there, and we'll call that all right. Okay, now green, our suspect gun. Let's see what happens in here with this one. Hey, that's working pretty well. You don't want to hold it on there for too long. Let's try that one more time. See, it's coming back down a little bit faster now. And there it settles down. Okay. Blue. Hopefully blue works as well. Okay. I'm surprised. Maybe we do have a chassis problem because the green gun gives me no indication of problem. Well, all 3 of our guns are pretty good. We'll go to clean and balance. We'll leave it on blue. You're hoping for it to go right there and stay there, right about 1.0. That was perfect. We'll go to green. Perfect. Red. Not quite, but close enough. Now we'll go to remove shorts just in case. Nothing should happen. Sometimes you might hear some cracking and sparking and arcing in the neck. That's not unexpected if you're removing a short. There's green. And there's blue. Okay, now if we go to read emission, we're hoping that we get a much better reading on the emission. Red's about the same, but it's in the good. Green, same as red. Blue, slightly better. Kind of where they were, but not too bad. Okay, that's the best that we can do with this. So let me cut away here. We'll get the neck board hooked back up and see if we're any better. All right, here we go. Test pattern generator on, and power 1, 2, 3. Wow, look how fast that came up. Wow. Okay. Oh, come on, don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. Red's freaking out. Red is freaking out. Oh, now blue's freaking out. This is what it was doing before. Come on, you bastard. Is it a neck issue? Okay, well, not unheard of after rejuvenation for sure. But that's, oh, come on, don't make a liar out of me. Come on, you bastard. Okay, let's hurry up and go to green. Well, green's how it was before. Yeah, if we turn it down. See, it was doing this exact same thing. I think we saw this at the beginning of the video. Seems like forever ago now. But it was doing this before the rejuvenation. So I don't think we did anything to cause this, because this is what was happening before. See, and it comes and goes, and as it warms up, it stops. But how come we have this green problem here? Red, blue, and then here's green. We get green, but right there is the limit. Something seems off there. I don't think it's the tube. Yeah, look. Our green is almost non-existent. But it's there. And we know that for the rejuvenation that it's not a tube problem. Let me swap around a couple of transistors and see what I can get going here. Maybe I can work some magic. Well, I got it figured out. I figured out the green problem, and you're not going to believe it. It was the video interface board. So we had two bad boards. Both of the original boards that were on this chassis were bad. This one was giving us almost no green, and this one was giving us no sync. So I ended up taking the two new caps off of this board and slaving them over to one of my other boards that was just like this. I showed before I had, I think, let's see, I had three of this one that only has the brightness adjustment. And then I had one spare of this kind that was the same kind that, well, was in the chassis like this. So I had one more of these that was a spare that I think the brightness pot was blue as opposed to white here. So I put that one in there and all of my green came back. So this was causing very low or almost no green, and this was causing no sync. So after slaving in two good ones, we are back in business. So we'll have to save those other two that are bad for a troubleshooting video later, maybe a follow-up to this, we'll see. But let's kill the light and you can see for yourself. Test pattern generator is now on, and we'll turn the monitor on. And comes right up. Look at that. Oh, color red is too high. I think this is red. Turn blue down a bit, green down a bit. And that is looking factory fresh, my friends. Factory fresh. Let's, whoa, red is still too high. Yowza. Let's turn our brightness down slightly. Right there. Is pretty good. And look at that. Wow. So much better. We have a nice full square image. It's shifted very ever so slightly up, but I can't move it further down without messing up my horizontal sync, which is perfectly fine because, like I say, if we put an actual PCB in here, let's go ahead and turn this off. And I'll turn off the test pattern generator, and we'll put our heavy barrel board back in, making sure to not hook it up backwards. And let's see what it looks like with the actual board installed now. Here we go. And oh, I gotta switch the inputs. Herp-a-derp. Herp-a-derp. There we go. Okay, let's turn up brightness. See, here's a good example of how vastly different the output of the test pattern generator is compared to an actual board. Look how much darker that is compared to the test pattern generator. So let's turn up our brightness. There we go. And we're still getting blue intermittent flashes. Why is it doing that? I guess it needs to work itself out. I wasn't doing that with the test pattern generator. Interesting. Well, I'm not really going to worry about it now. There we go. See, it kind of stopped. I think that this thing is just very finicky. But right about there is where our brightness needs to reside. A little bit more red, a little bit more blue. Green looks good. Man, that is a good picture. Look at this. Let's get a bit closer here. We'll get a little bit closer with Arid Extra Dry. Yeah, I was around in the 80s. What do you want? Look at just look how crisp that is. It's amazing. The K4600 is just a fantastic monitor. And I got a bit of flash of red there. I'll let it run for a while, work out the kinks, but I think we're going to be good. Yeah, it's still flickering on that blue. Now, I don't know if that is the transistor or a neckboard problem. The rejuvenation test seemed okay. I may put the rejuvenator back on it and try and so you can see what it's there. It's really, really bad. I don't think that is a color gun. I think that is something else going on here. I'd like to end the video. It's been going on forever. But, man, let me bang on this neckboard here a bit. You know what? It hasn't been ran, and it was sitting in a garage for a long time. So it may just be that this needs to run. It may just need to run for a while. But so for the purposes of this video, I'm going to go ahead and consider this complete and done and working. I'll let it run for a number of hours and see if that flickering ever comes back. I'll let it run for a number of hours, turn it off, turn it back on, and see what happens, and troubleshoot from there. I may actually do a continuation of this on another part when I troubleshoot those other interface boards. But for now, you can see this working, and it looks and operates fantastic now. So I need to kind of shift the vertical position this way, and I'm going to have to move that jumper, but I'll worry about that later. And there's no reason to do it now because this isn't the board that's staying in here for all I know. So that kind of thing can be done when it goes into whatever game it ends up being at some point. Oh, I got a flash of red there too. So I just think that this tube needs to work itself out and run for a while. But anyway, so yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully you learned something, a little bit educational for me and you on this Wills Gardner K4600. We're going to call it complete. Stay tuned for another part here when I get those interface boards diagnosed and troubleshot, and we'll do an update on whether or not letting this run for a while fixed the issues that we're seeing with this. But yeah, otherwise, we're going to call this done. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more, and we will see you then.